All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to No Final Bell. So we are actually going to be starting off with the AEW side of things before we talk about NWA 74, Night 1 and Night 2. So the rumors were out there about, CM Punk and Young Bucks and Kenny Omega and everybody else that was involved. All of them, unfortunately, were all stripped of their championships. So Tony Khan comes out starting in Buffalo, which we were there. It was amazing. I think it's a lot better than seeing it in Rochester, which is sad because, being from Rochester, you would think, it would have to have that, nice hometown feel. Unfortunately, it was more so in Buffalo than it was in Rochester. The matches were just amazing. And the environment was amazing. I think the crowd got into it a lot more in Buffalo than they did in Rochester. So it was nice. But yes, so the first match of the night ended up being actually well, they were supposed to go up against each other, so you had Death Triangle and versus the Best Friends, which was supposed to be just a regular trios match that was going to happen. But because of everything itself, they stripped the Elite of the tag team, the World's Trios tag team titles, and that match actually began. Was actually for the championships, and then also Tony Khan starts, and there will be a tournament for the World Championship, and will be crowned in 2 weeks at Grand Slam. Next week in Grand Slam. Thoughts about that? Do we like what Tony Khan is doing here with his Tournament of Champions?
What better way to crown a new world champion than in quite possibly the biggest crowd setting that AEW has ever had?
Mm-hmm.
In Arthur Ashe Stadium.
It's weird because when they are in Grand Slam, because Dynamite and Rampage will be both live. I'm pretty sure it's going to be like it was last time, where they're both 2-hour shows, one on Wednesday and one on Friday. It's weird because when they're in Arthur Ashe Stadium, it makes it feel like it's a pay-per-view environment, which is nice. And with Rampage actually being live, it feels amazing. And the matches that they had from last year were amazing. They had some great matches. Of course, a lot of the talent that is suspended right now will probably not be there itself, so it really does suck with that. Of course, CM Punk, we don't know if it's truly suspension more so than it is an injury. He is out 8 months with so this time it's like a different kind of injury.
Bicep or
bicep. It's a different injury. It's not
is the same injury that Christian Cage currently has.
Right.
So
which is the main reason why that went only 20 seconds. I get it. People are like, why did he bury Jungle Boy? Well, you want to try to protect Christian Cage because he's still hurt.
Yeah.
But I get it. You probably should have had Jungle Boy win in 20 seconds.
It's interesting, though, because, not to intervene, but it's interesting because somebody had mentioned on Twitter, and I didn't even make a correlation to that, and I didn't even really notice until somebody had mentioned it. Edge went through the same thing that Christian is going through, because Christian came back from a year-long hiatus, much like Edge, and they're having very similar runs, challenging for world titles and everything, but in that span of time, Christian now has a torn bicep/tricep. Edge had the same thing after he initially returned. So,
right,
their paths are kind of co-aligned in a sense.
Yeah. So
in 2 different companies too.
So later tonight we will be seeing actually 2 matches on Dynamite. We're going to be seeing Sammy Guevara against Chris Jericho.
Please, God.
Sammy Guevara
not...
against, I think, Jon Moxley. And then, of course, we've got Bryan Danielson versus Chris Jericho.
Please, God, do not let Sammy Guevara advance in that tournament.
This time,
nobody wants to see that.
This time, if I had to make a prediction, I'm going to say Bryan Danielson beats Chris Jericho this time, unlike what happened at All Out.
Yeah, I really think that.
And I think Jon Moxley is going to beat Sammy Guevara. We are going to get Moxley and Danielson. And honestly, I think it's time to pull the trigger and make Danielson the AEW World Champion.
I agree.
Make him a 7-time World Champion.
Yeah.
I think it's the right time. Nothing against Jon Moxley. And I think he did a fantastic job the 2 times he's been champion, even though the second time was technically interim and then became actual champion, only to lose it all out. But Danielson makes the most sense here. But I could also see Chris Jericho challenging after Bryan Danielson for the title heading to Full Gear because of everything with Daniel Garcia and everything like that. That I could see it end up being a rivalry that leads into the championship. I get it. They are facing off against each other in Albany later tonight. But what better way to have a long-standing rivalry with Danielson and Chris Jericho? And then they face off against each other at Full Gear for the World Heavyweight title. I would love that. I think that's a great story right there. I think it's something that makes sense with what's happening with Daniel Garcia. You know, Daniel Garcia truly hasn't known what he wants. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But honestly, Grand Slam is shaping up to look like it's going to be a hell of a show. Albany, Marty and I were thinking, damn it, I wish we chose the wrong city to go to because there's 2 great matches that are going to be in Albany and MVP Arena. Sammy Guevara and Jon Moxley, and then Chris Jericho and Bryan Danielson. Is it safe to say that right now, AEW, after All Out, is like, you know, like guns a-blazing, like full of rounds right now?
It's
like,
funny, too, because...
This might be best for business right now.
Another thing that somebody had mentioned on Twitter that I saw was that apparently there was a talent meeting like right after All Out with Moxley and Danielson, I believe, being like the culprits behind it. And like it was certainly apparent, and we'll get into it, on Dynamite and Rampage, that it lit a fire under the asses of the talent. So I really think that talent meeting...
No offense, I love AEW, but as of late, it's been kind of lacking with these matches. So honestly, they needed a fire lit underneath their ass because let me tell you something. That show in Buffalo, holy shit, did everybody bring it.
Oh, yeah.
It felt like a pro wrestling show, not a sports entertainment show, and it damn near like made me proud. And if AEW can honestly certainly be like that going forward every single week, do not be shocked if AEW can honestly take the reins and take the chains away from WWE. I'm not saying that, you know, it's going to be beating out WWE every single week. There's no freaking possible way. WWE is just too powerful of a company, and I don't care how sports entertainment it is.
Well, not to mention, WWE also draws, at this point now, like 2.2 million people.
Right. So do not be shocked if AEW can start getting into being a million or more fans every single week.
Dynamite every now and then barely like gets to a million. So if Dynamite can continue to,
I think the viewership will start going up if you can start putting on a great product every single week.
Yeah.
So going forward, we talked about it. The Devil.
He's the salt of the earth.
NGF has come back and looks to be a face.
Yeah, he's looking to.
And says
he's actually appreciated and loved by the crowd.
Yeah, and says that the Devil is back. Asks who's excited to see him. Everybody. Says he loves AEW, says the title was vacated, and says he deserves that title, which I think he really does. He has a title shot anytime he wants.
Yeah.
Got paid now by Tony Khan.
Oh, yeah, he got paid big bucks, as he said, or
I'm pretty
Something
sure.
along
I'm
those
pretty sure he
lines.
did get paid.
I'm pretty sure that's a
This
fourth
this
wall
whole
break. Yeah.
this whole thing with him going to WWE in 2024, I don't think it's happening. I think he got extended and got paid like he deserves to. Of course, he's a heel and it's gonna, bash AEW as much as possible type of thing. So it's just a whole work. People, you need to understand the difference between a work and a shoot. He is just working us all. He's not even shooting. We all thought it was a shoot with what he said with calling Tony Khan an effing mark, but apparently it was just all work by by MJF itself. Because if it was truly a shoot, he would have pulled the plug like a long time ago. And I get it, he did in that sense. And I'm sure, I'm glad that
They
MJF
just
and
wanted
Tony
to keep it
Khan.
under lock and key.
I'm glad that Tony Khan and MJF finally came to an agreement to pay him some more money and extend him.
Although it's safe to say that, once MJF's contract comes up, we still have no idea where he's gonna go.
Yeah, I mean, true. Also, MJF, as weird as it is, even though he's a Jewish boy, says that he's better than Moses and also better than you, and you know it. Then John Moxley comes out, which was so awesome. If you have me as a friend on Facebook, I posted the pictures on Facebook, Instagram as well. We were actually in the section above where he came out, so seeing him come out right then and there was actually pretty cool. We got some nice pictures there. I didn't post them onto the Tinkle Sports Entertainment page. I probably should have, but it was actually pretty cool. He comes out and then calls MJ. It says MJF is full of crap. Looks at swerved us all and says he might not care at all. Looks at the world title as a chip and will take the title to a real promotion to the American Nightmare Cody Rhodes.
This is MJF saying that.
And then work for the only con that means a damn.
Nick Khan, he's talking about.
Yeah.
Which,
Johnny
by the way,
Saint Nick.
Which, by the way, fuck Nick Khan. I hate that man with a burning passion.
Personal hero of the game, and says that's what's best for business. Moxley wants him to leave the ring since this isn't the time or place. Leaves out of the ring, and Moxley says he's pissed off and embarrassed without the world title. The world title means passion for the sport and business. AEW is something that shows what wrestling could be, has the freedom to be as great as willing to be. World Championship represents everything he loves about this business. Says he makes mistakes and has another chance in the Tournament of Champions. As they go through, Jericho and everyone that is younger than him says he wants the belt or wants the ball, and this isn't just winning time, it's time to be a legend. Hell of a promo by MJF and John Moxley to start off.
Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about, where it's like it lit a fire under the ass of because he's and another thing on I keep going back to it, but at the same time it's like I don't care. I browse Twitter all the time, so if you don't have me on Twitter, follow me at Marty_wrestling. But regardless, that promo was heartfelt because it shows how loyal John Moxley is to AEW. He helped start that promotion.
But then again, don't be shocked if John Moxley does head into Arthur Ashe Stadium and become the only three-time AEW World Heavyweight Champion, by the way. So
I mean, technically, though, he is a three-time, technically, I guess you could say. But, yes, you're right. It was the interim, but then, So, but even still, technically, he already is a three-time, so he could technically go for his fourth.
Right. So don't be shocked if maybe even he regains it and actually keeps it. And this is actually the summer of Moxley, not the summer of Punk.
It was, everybody thought it was supposed to be the summer of Punk.
But we headed into our first match of the night. Death Triangle and Best Friends to crown the second ever AEW World Trios Tag Team Champs. What a hell of a match. These two trios went after each other, as I knew they probably would. But let me tell you something. Death Triangle and Best Friends tore the house down in the first match of the night. It went on for a very long time. And, like, I want to say it was, like, by, like, 8:40 by the time that this match was done and over with. And this is only, like, a 2-hour show. It wasn't a really, like, all the matches that they had, which wasn't very many, went on for a good amount of time.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something, we're all fantastic. Maybe except for the women's match. But honestly, other than that, all of them, all the people definitely brought it. But congratulations to Death Triangle as they beat the Best Friends to become the AEW Trios World Tag Team Champions.
I was a little torn on that match because, like, I really didn't, like, it really wouldn't have, like, my reaction to it would not have mattered that much, because at the same time, it's like, hey, whoever wins, wins. I'm not going to be opposed to whoever wins. But, like, if there was ever a time that I wanted the Best Friends to win it, it was at that moment.
I know.
But
Best Friends would have made a little bit more sense.
Death Triangle, which, by the way, also makes it the first time that we have a dual champion.
Yeah, congratulations
in AEW
to Pac.
with AEW belts, not
Pac.
Not belts from another company. Because I've seen people saying, like, oh, Kenny Omega's done it. No, he hasn't. He held the AEW title and the Impact title, and then the AAA, and and then also somebody was saying, like, well, what about Moxley? Moxley, again, AEW World title, IWGP US title.
Yeah, so Pac is officially the first ever dual champion in AEW with 2 AEW titles, the All Atlantic Championship and the World
1/3 of the World Trio
Team Champions. So this one I think is going to be an interesting story that's going to be that's going to head into, like, a future match itself. Andrade has been trying to push for Preston Vance number 10 to join the work for him. And then Evil Uno says that the Dark Order still isn't for sale, but Roosh wants to fight John Silver. Thoughts?
I mean,
sure. Very well could happen on Rampage. But this is very interesting what's going on with Dark Order and the Andrade family office. I think it's going to be a storyline that's going to lead into a match very soon. It's all right because, you're trying to, like, do more with the Andrade family office and then also the Dark Order, two kind of factions that you really haven't been doing a whole lot with. But honestly, I think this makes a lot of sense because, 10, I can see why you would want to try to get him on your side because he is one hell of a big-ass dude. Jacked, big, muscular guy. Somebody that I think AEW, if they really took the mask off of him, could make him into a big star. Nothing against, Tony Khan and what he's doing to Dark Order, but I think you have something to Preston Vance.
Yeah.
He's a star. Everybody likes him.
Oh, yeah.
So as far as Roosh against John Silver, why not? Why not have Johnny Hungy go up against Roosh? I wouldn't be very excited about a match like that, but why not? I think Roosh and John Silver can end up having themselves a pretty decent match, either on Rampage or Dynamite. So why not? Be all for it. So, this wasn't initially shown on the pay-per-view. This was actually shown in Buffalo right after, like, backstage during All Out. Apparently, Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter seem to not be seeing eye to eye after All Out. Thoughts? As they should. I kind of figured that.
I think it's going to lead to a one-on-one.
I think so too. Britt, if you saw from that match, Britt actually costed Jamie Hayter.
The ref pulled out the referee while Jamie Hayter hit her finish
from winning the interim AEW Women's World Championship.
Yeah, and then next thing you know, Jamie Hayter was like super pissed off at Britt, and I
Stormed
believe
off.
that's what brought in Tony Storm, and then Tony Storm got the win. So,
Yeah.
and I was looking at that match at All Out, and like,
I really do think that Jamie Hayter did get screwed because I think that
yeah, I
she
mean,
probably would have won if it wasn't for
oh,
Britt Baker.
absolutely.
But I think the right person did win. It was, I think it was Tony Storm's about to lose. Like, I feel like she was going to win it regardless if it was Thunder
Yeah,
Rosa or if it was going to be interim style like it was in this Fatal 4-Way match. But, good. I'm kind of glad that Jamie Hayter is not seeing eye to eye to Britt. It was kind of long standing. It was, multiple different times where they weren't, seeing eye to eye, and both of them really, were at ends. So hopefully this leads into something, a match, rivalry, something. Hopefully there's a better outcome, like whoever wins could get a shot at Tony Storm's AEW Women's World Championship. Who knows? But speaking of Tony Storm, heading into this match, she is currently the AEW Women's Interim World Champion, and she beats Penelope Ford.
it was a eliminator match.
Yeah, it was an eliminator match. If Penelope Ford was to win that match, she would have gotten a future title shot.
Which we knew she wasn't going to win
No,
anyway.
I don't even understand why you do these eliminator matches, because anytime they've done them, the one that's trying to go and get a shot ends up losing. I'm not saying that eventually it won't be the case where they
I was
do
going to
win.
say, I feel like eventually they could make the world title eliminator like match
Right.
actually like mean something and actually have like, if anything, when Takeshita had that world title eliminator match against Moxley, at that point you should have had Takeshita win.
Oh, I agree. So coming up, the next story here, the Acclaimed come out. We
Oh,
thought
yeah.
we were gonna hear a rap,
We
but
thought
then
we were going to hear a rap.
unfortunately, Swerve Strickland interrupts. And
We have never been able
And
to get an Acclaimed rap
Yes.
seeing them live.
I know, and it sucks.
People are pissed.
We keep on getting robbed. This time it was unfortunately Swerve Strickland, and then apparently the fans chant asshole to him and says he has a joke for everyone, and it's the Acclaimed as the champs. Says this ain't your and then Billy Gunn says this ain't your house anymore. It's Daddy Ass's house. And apparently they will face off at Arthur Ashe Stadium for the World Tag Team Championship. Is it finally time
I think it's
for
time.
the Acclaimed to win the AEW World Tag Team titles, Marty?
But why couldn't you have had it at All Out? All Out is the bigger.
I get it.
All Out is a pay-per-view payoff. Like, unless the whole idea behind it was to have the payoff ultimately be the Acclaimed win it at Arthur Ashe.
I think so.
Grand Slam.
Yeah,
But
because
honestly,
I hate to say it, nothing against everything, but Arthur Ashe definitely has a, I bet, or like I already said, it has a bigger crowd. This is where they get the most crowd, and they want to put up as many great matches for it as possible in front of that crowd. Then if that's the case, Tony Khan, why don't you have a pay-per-view at Arthur Ashe Stadium?
I agree.
Nothing against it, having Grand Slam there and everything like that, and Dynamite and Rampage, but why can't you have an official pay-per-view at Arthur Ashe Stadium? Clearly, you're capable of selling it out for a regular show. I think you can do it more for a pay-per-view. So
not unless it's always been the plan to just have it be like a pay-per-view style.
Yeah, probably.
Dynamite and Rampage show, kind of like Fighter
Tony
Fest
Khan,
and Fight for the Fall.
Tony Khan does that a lot with these specialty shows.
I was going to say, kind of like Fight for the Fall and Fighter Fest.
Right, exactly. So,
what's the other one?
I think this is a time for the Acclaim to win. I think that you're going to see a lot of title changes maybe at Arthur Ashe Stadium. Of course,
we're guaranteed a new world champion.
Exactly. So I think you're going to get new AEW World Tag Team Champions, and who better than the Acclaim to win it in front of all those fans and do it against Swerve Strickland. Nothing against Swerve and their glory, but I think it's time for them to kind of be away for the tag team titles and stuff like that. So who really knows? Then Chris Jericho says he has found the Fountain of Youth, and that's why he beat Bryan Danielson. And
says he will beat him again.
Yes.
Yeah,
Says he will beat them.
He spoiled the winner of that tournament match before it even happened.
It says why he will beat him, and says it's his championship and no one will take that away from him. Says all of his guys will win, and Sammy says how sexy they both are. Well,
typical Sammy.
He wasn't wrong. His guys did win. Except yeah.
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 They did.
He wasn't wrong. He did.
So, I mean, because
Right. Exactly.
We'll get into that.
We'll get into that. So Wardlow faces off against Tony Nese for the AEW TNT Championship. I don't think I have to go into this very much. He does beat Tony Nese to retain, and says he has been hearing a lot of talk from the internet and that he's the champ, trying to remind everyone in the crowd and then in the back, and that this is Wardlow's world. Thoughts? Okay,
that's what I mean by
if you think about that with Wardlow and then the fire lit underneath a lot of people's asses, then start having an open challenge for the TNT Championship.
He did initially say that he wanted to bring him back, but
Tony Khan, make the plan too.
Then make them like Cody Rhodes' open challenges, where you bring in anybody from any promotion. That's why we were able to see Ricky Starks before he was signed. That's why we were able to see Eddie Kingston before he was signed. That's why we were able to see Warhorse. I don't even think he is signed by AEW or last I saw, I think he was in MLW, but that's besides the point. That's how we were able to see all of these people challenge for the TNT title.
Right.
And especially Ricky Starks with his promo, he was like, "Oh yeah, I'm a former NWA television champion." It's like, that you are, sir. Put yourself on the map. Let everybody know about your past accomplishments. Let everybody know where you came from.
So yes, we head into the next match, and this is how Bryan Danielson is facing up against Chris Jericho at later tonight. He faces off against Adam Hangman Page. Let me tell you something, another banger of a match. Bryan Danielson and Adam Hangman Page tore it on the house, hard hitting, beating the living crap out of each other. Another solid, maybe 15-minute match here.
Although the way the match ended was a little
yeah, it was a little weird. It was a roll-up pin by Bryan Danielson.
The most devastating move in sports entertainment, the surprise roll-up.
And then he moves on to the next round of the tournament in a really great back-and-forth contest. Man, I tell you what, Bryan Danielson and Adam Hangman Page, it just sucks because it makes you wonder, what are they truly doing with Adam Hangman Page? Right now, after losing the title, he hasn't really been doing a whole lot. I'm hoping eventually he can get back into the world title opportunity, and if not, then have him face off against Wardlow, for the TNT Championship. Do something with him, because right now he's garnishing a lot of losses, and his momentum is kind of going downward.
Yeah.
So it sucks for that, but congratulations to Bryan Danielson. I think it's going to be my choices for who's going to go off into Arthur Ashe Stadium for the world title. I think it's going to be Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley. And I think if that's going to be the case, it's going to be one hell of a match. But then again, I mean, who knows? If it does end up being Chris Jericho and Jon Moxley, I think that's going to also be a good match for the world title too. So who knows? Then afterwards, Stokely Hathaway comes out. And this is kind of funny. The producer says,
the producer says, hey, cut it out. We don't have a lot of time.
And then he's like, how dare you, come up here and say that, I don't have enough.
Anytime I have a microphone, I have all the time on my hands, kind of thing.
And then he beats the producer down.
Beats him down.
And fans chant asshole to him. And then W. Morrissey big booted him.
The producer.
Thoughts? safe to say that Stokely Hathaway's group is, going to be the next great faction, great heel faction here.
But notice that as of late, Stokely's been distancing himself from Jade Cargill.
Yes, he has.
Yeah. So, it's safe to say that Stokely might be branching off on his own, separate from Jade and the back.
Honestly, I think Jade's big enough that she doesn't need
I think
anybody.
Jade needs to be on her own anyway.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think she really needs a mouthpiece anymore.
I don't think so either.
She can talk
She definitely
very well for herself.
Oh, yeah, she can.
It was apparent.
AEW has done really good with Jade Cargill and her progression in the sport, honestly.
I just wish they wouldn't relegate it to only Rampage.
I know, and I agree. But
But here's the thing, like, Rampage is definitely Jade Cargill's show. So,
yes, I agree. It is.
Which is not a bad thing. I mean, but at the same time, it's like, why don't you broadcast her more on the network that, her championship is...
Like we've talked about it before, Rampage definitely has that different type of feel, even though it is recorded after Dynamite. But it definitely has a different type of feel to it as opposed to Dynamite.
What are you talking about? I thought it was live on Fridays.
No, definitely not. But, it's great to actually see W. Morrissey more involved with AEW. I hope he signs eventually. I don't think he's actually signed to the promotion.
I don't think so either.
But I think very soon he's going to officially sign with
I don't see why he wouldn't, honestly.
And honestly, he would be another man that I would love to see face off against Wardlow for the TNT Championship. Yeah. That would be awesome.
I mean, technically, we already saw it happen with, well, it wasn't for the TNT title, but technically we already saw Wardlow and Morrissey.
Right.
But that was when Wardlow was being put through all of those challenges by MJF before Double or Nothing. So,
right, and then we get on to our main event.
Yeah.
Pure Wrestling Rules between Daniel Garcia and Wheeler Yuta. Man, there was actual, rope breaks that were being used.
Oh, yeah, well, okay, yeah.
Wheeler Yuta did end up using a closed fist, so he did.
Oh, yeah, he did get a warning. Yeah, so Pure Wrestling.
Hence why they were slapping each other. You had to use open fists.
Yeah, they were using open-handed slaps. So, Pure Wrestling, though, you are allowed 3 rope breaks. Closed fists are not permitted. The first time you do it is a warning. The next time you are disqualified.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how that works for the champion. Like, if you use a closed fist 2 times, then would you still be awarded the belt because you lost by disqualification? Or I don't know how that works. You would
probably still be awarded the belt with a disqualification, because technically,
either way,
any time a champion has gotten disqualified, they still retain the title even though they lost the match.
I'm aware of that, but in the sense of Pure Wrestling rules, I don't know if it changes or not.
No, I'm pretty sure it does not.
Well, either way, we've never had to worry about that because we've never had a Pure Wrestling championship match.
And let me tell you something.
End in disqualification.
This
at least
match was hard hitting. I think it was about as good as the first matchup in
at Death Before Dishonor.
Death Before Dishonor.
Yes, but see, the difference between Death Before Dishonor and in Buffalo was the fact that when it came to Death Before Dishonor, Daniel Garcia was way too focused on still being a sports entertainer.
Right.
What you saw out of Daniel Garcia in Buffalo was the pro wrestler in Daniel Garcia.
Oh, yeah, I know, I agree.
And even then, his hometown crowd chanted to him, "You're a wrestler."
Yes.
So,
and he very much is a wrestler, big time, and honestly,
especially after the match, because Danielson came out and Yuta was pretty heated after the match. I don't even think he adhered to the code of honor. But then next thing you know, Danielson comes out, takes the title, and puts it around the waist of Garcia.
And then they shake hands.
And they shake hands.
Yeah, so...
bringing out Chris Jericho, and Jericho's looking at Garcia like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah,
you know?
So what do you think this means?
And that's how Dynamite ends, by the way.
Yeah, do you think that Chris Jericho is going to, get more involved with Bryan Danielson in this?
I think so. I mean, the long-standing rivalry thus far has been Jericho Appreciation Society versus the Blackpool Combat Club. And even then, I really do think that Blackpool Combat Club has its newest member in Daniel Garcia.
Oh, no, I agree.
I mean, it only makes sense to the story because, Danielson had already said to Daniel Garcia before that, he was initially trying to recruit Daniel Garcia to the Blackpool Combat Club when it first, became a group.
I know, and honestly, I'm grateful that Daniel Garcia was to get the win in his hometown of Buffalo, New York.
See, that's the difference between Tony Khan and WWE.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Khan will actually give people a big hometown win, and especially when it comes to Rochester. Rochester, synonymous with Brody Lee. Obviously, Brody Lee, unfortunately, is no longer with us, but Brody Lee was very synonymous with the TNT Championship. Obviously, when they're in Rochester, they have to have a TNT Championship match. And, regardless of the situation, the TNT title always changes hands in Rochester. It happened first with Sammy Guevara and Miro. Miro was the champion walking in. Sammy Guevara came out the champion. Then, next thing you know, the next time they're in Rochester, it's Scorpio Sky as the champion, challenging or facing Wardlow. Wardlow obviously gets that huge reaction to winning the TNT Championship, and much deserved for Wardlow. But as of late, his title reign has been kind of lacking.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And that's why he cut that promo, because it had to light a fire under his ass and realize, hey, I'm the fucking TNT champion.
Right.
What the hell am I doing?
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting to see what truly is going to happen with Daniel Garcia, Bryan Danielson, and Chris Jericho. Of course, keep on watching Dynamite and Rampage to find out more so Dynamite. But congratulations to Daniel Garcia for being a new Pure Wrestling champion. But also the other question I have is this the last time we're going to see Pure Wrestling rules in AEW?
I hope not.
I don't think so.
Or at least on television.
Right.
I think is what you're saying, because I believe during Yuta's reign, it has mainly been defended on Dark Elevation and Dark, I think. So, to his point, I believe what he's trying to say is this the last time we see it on AEW television, the network television, not on YouTube. It's very possible. I hope not, because I would love to see more Pure Wrestling on, say, Rampage.
Right.
But at the same time, this was a good way to introduce your audience to Pure Wrestling that maybe hasn't seen Pure Wrestling in Impact or on Rampage, for example, or even at Death Before Dishonor.
Right.
So,
Alright, so we get on to the next match. Sammy Guevara and Darby Allin.
This is the start of Rampage.
Yeah, it's the start of Rampage. And Sammy Guevara does beat Darby Allin to face Jon Moxley next week on Dynamite. Who do we think will win? Tonight. I think later tonight we are going to see Jon Moxley beat Sammy Guevara. It makes the most sense, but who knows? They could throw us a curveball here. Going forward, only because, I want to make sure that we have enough time with everything else. Samoa Joe comes out and says it feels damn good to be back in AEW. Apologizes for being gone. and promises more violence in the future. No, he was not hurt, ladies and gentlemen. If you're asking the question, he was actually out filming a show, so hence why he was gone. He was not hurt whatsoever. And says he will put the title on the line. And while smart Mark Sterling talks to fans, chant what? And says that Josh Woods deserves a shot at the title. Joe says he has fought hard to earn a shot at the TV title and will happen tonight. And then smart Mark Sterling says it isn't happening. It will happen later tonight on Rampage in Albany.
No. Friday.
Oh, yes.
Friday.
Later on Friday.
But,
Friday on Rampage in Albany. Thoughts?
Of course, we were robbed of a match in Buffalo.
Yeah,
it seems like all the great matches were happening in Albany.
I know, it does seem like that.
Yeah, like Jason said earlier, it's like, man, we chose the wrong day to go to a show.
I mean, it was still good for what it was. I mean, there's still 2 title matches and stuff like that. But honestly, this one is going to be interesting. I don't see Samoa Joe losing the title here. Against Josh Woods, who was a former Pure Wrestling champion, this will certainly be interesting.
The one that lost to Wheeler Yuta at Supercard of Honor.
Not going to lie, just because Samoa Joe's the television champion, I think a title that would be perfect for him. And I know it's right now Daniel Garcia is a champion. I think him being a Pure Wrestling champion would be a great title for him because he's such a great technical wrestler.
I mean, but I don't know necessarily how Pure Wrestling,
But then again, I think the television title makes the most sense for him to be, other than, being the actual world champion itself. But let me tell you something. This match, I think, is going to be a great bout, a great match. Samoa Joe is going to give Josh Woods a muscle buster. I think 1, 2, 3. I say Samoa Joe retains via the muscle buster. Miro says he would be the right choice for the tournament. Thoughts? I think so. I think Tony Khan robbed Miro yet again. What is with Miro and not getting these opportunities to face off for the world title? It's kind of like Tony Khan's scared to pull a trigger with Miro right now, and unless he's got bigger, better things for Miro in the future, I still think, and this is just me, because now that Malachi is no longer with AEW right now, could we see Miro being the new leader for the House of Black for the time being? That I can see. He's already wearing the black. I don't know what's really going on with Malachi. He could come back. He could not come back. I don't know what's going on with him.
I think he is going to come back. I think he's just taking a break.
I think Miro being involved with the House of Black would make the most sense. But then again, I think you need to do something with Miro, whether it be going up against the TNT Championship yet again, or going for the world title. I mean, give Miro a world title opportunity, even if it's like a random rant, like Dynamite, or maybe at the pay-per-view. I think Miro is well deserving of a world title opportunity, even though I know he's not the greatest wrestler whatsoever. So next match heading on Rampage here is Serena Deeb and Madison Rayne. Serena Deeb does beat Madison Rayne, and kind of sucks because I thought, it would have been awesome to see Madison Rayne beat Serena Deeb, but Serena Deeb does beat her.
Yeah, what are they really doing with Madison Rayne?
I have no idea.
They had a lot of momentum around her debut as a coach, but she's also still going to be an in-ring talent. But it's it's one thing to have her lose against Jade Cargill.
Right.
But after that, she's just been on a constant losing streak. It's what are they doing with her? It's fine if you want to bring her in as a coach, but
I know.
On top of that, it's she's doing in-ring work. It's wouldn't you want to have her momentum from Impact be carried over essentially as
right.
She's the queen bee of the women's division. So it's wouldn't you want to make that like her gimmick still
Right.
for AEW? It's like, okay, it's fine if you want to give her a completely new like persona or whatever in AEW, or like give her a new presentation to her character, but like have her start winning matches. Like, what the hell? That's always been the number one criticism about AEW, is the lack thereof of foundation for building around your women's division,
Right.
because you have a solid women's division that you just don't know what to do with.
Oh, I know. So
So
Jade Cargill ends up having a sit down, or not a sit down, but like a
backstage.
backstage interview. Gets asked who is next, and
By the way, she did say, "Cut the shit, Lexi," but on the broadcast airing of Rampage, they bleeped out shit.
that sucks.
And I
Uh,
actually saw it too. It's stupid.
and then throwing out the open challenge, but who truly is next? She is literally beating everybody that there
Yeah, I
is.
mean, I was gonna say, like, it made the most sense to have Athena, but at this point, it's like you didn't have Athena win. So, yeah, like, who really. I mean, you could have possibly had
Hikaru
it be.
Shida.
That's probably the most likely, but
I mean,
also,
she's
like,
more involved with AEW right now, so
well,
who
okay,
knows?
I'll do you one better. Maki Ito?
Who knows? I mean, you could
Like,
have
you
somebody.
have what, but like, so here's the thing too. If it wasn't for Statlander being injured, I would possibly throw her name out there. But because of the fact that she's injured, like, you know, I will say this: you definitely should at least give her one
I say,
run with a women's title, whether it be the TBS or
I
the
mean,
World Women's title,
don't get me
like
wrong. I
at least
understand. I'm
ultimately
not the
before she probably has to
right,
retire early. I'm
and
hoping she wouldn't have to retire early,
right,
but you know,
and I'm not
you
the
never
biggest.
know.
I'm not the biggest fan of like Britt Baker, but like, why not even like have like Britt Baker challenge for the TBS championship? No offense, but like,
Yeah,
it'd
like
still
why
be
do you always
something.
have to have her go after the women's title, the women's
Exactly.
world title, I should
So
say? Like
it's just
it's
a thought.
yeah,
Um, so going into the second to the last thing, Powerhouse
uh,
Hobbs feels like he has to do the work himself and wants to open up the book of Hobbs and wants to show everyone what he's made of. All the power to him. He's a number two
yeah,
ranked guy. I think he deserves a future title opportunity. Because right now, the number one contender, I would think, is probably MJF because he's got the poker chip.
yeah,
But, it makes you wonder Hobbs ain't in this tournament.
yeah. That is a good question.
I get it, MJF isn't because he's got the poker chip. That makes a little bit more sense. He could face off against. I still think that he's got opportunity at full gear. Um, who really knows what's going to happen heading into November 19th? But Powerhouse, I think, is going to make a strong case heading into um, heading into future opportunities. He's number two ranked. He's generating quite a decent following in a run right now. Honestly, do you pull the gun and have him face off against whoever wins the world title eventually? I think you would. You would have to.
You would have to, yeah.
And then we go on to the main event. I don't want to really talk too much about this one, but yes, Claudio Castagnoli beat Starks Harwood to retain the ROH world title.
It was a very hard hitting
It
match
was a
between
hard
the
hitting
two,
match, yes.
and it was very back and forth. But
Yes, it was.
ultimately, Claudio, as was a bit expected, did get the win over did uh, did get the win over Dax. So now we get on to NWA 74 nights 1 and 2, along with the pre-shows. I'm gonna kind of like just skim through everything. Um, Not a lot to talk about with this one. Red Titus beat VSK on the pre-show. This is all the pre-show for night one. Rodney Mack beats Pope. After the match, Aaron Stevens and Rodney Mack beat down Pope, but then who comes to Pope's rescue but Kratos, returning Kratos. And that name is significant because Kratos was the former tag team partner of Aaron Stevens. They were the tag team champions at one point. Um, Speaking of the tag team titles, though, Harry Smith, one half of the Commonwealth Connection, unfortunately went down with an illness and cannot defend the NWA tag team titles with Doug Williams. So the tag team title match will now be La Rebellion versus Hawks Aerie for the vacant tag team titles. And I believe that was later in night one, and it was. So we will get into that. But the main event of the pre-show for night one was a tag team match. It was a pick your poison with Caprice Coleman and Gustavo versus Wrecking Ball Legursky and Colby Corino. And basically, if Caprice's team won, it would be 2 out of 3 falls. And then I believe if Colby Corino's team won, it was going to be falls count anywhere. I believe that was. But either way, Caprice Coleman and Gustavo beat Wrecking Ball Legursky and Colby Corino, so the match at night 2 was 2 out of 3 falls. We'll get into that. We start the main show of night 1 with Nick Aldis, who addresses the controversy with Billy Corgan pulling him from the main event of night 2 and addresses the possibility of retirement. He's thinking about it, but will he actually? It could be, it's very possible that Nick Aldis and Mickie James could potentially retire together. It's wild to think about, but hey,
I know it'd be kind of crazy if even that like Bound for Glory that it's truly her last.
I mean, this is her last rodeo, so
right.
The next match that she loses, that's it. So
what is that? Maybe, is it even including NWA as well?
I don't think so because I don't think as of late Mickie James has not been a prominent on NWA. I think she's more of a backstage person for NWA, whereas she's more of an on-screen wrestler for Impact. But on night 2, Nick Aldis will face Flip Gordon, so we'll get more into that as well. So, Control Your Narrative has showed up in NWA. We'll get more into that, though, as EC3 beats Mims. And then after the match, starts talking on the mic about controlling narratives, which brings out Tom Latimer. EC3 knows about Tom Latimer's demons and says he will take out those demons and that you've been warned. Then we have Beelzebub's Bedlam, the Miserably Faithful and the Ill-Begotten. The Miserably Faithful beat the Ill-Begotten, but I definitely want to talk about that spot that otherwise could have been avoided with the ladder and the superplex. Just didn't look good. Don't know what they were even trying to go for with that, but yeah. Then we have Chris Adonis and Odinson. Chris Adonis beats Odinson by disqualification after Odinson sprayed Chris Adonis in the eyes to break out of the Master Lock. We have the Junior Heavyweight title on the line for night 1. It was actually on the line on both nights with 2 different opponents, but the first opponent was Kerry Morton, and Homicide beats Kerry Morton to retain. But, so yes, night 1 was Kerry Morton, night 2 was Ricky Morton. So, but then we have Matt Cardona back from injury. He has a hand-picked opponent. Who does he pick? Rolando Freeman, the smallest guy on the roster in the NWA. But shockingly enough, Rolando Freeman gets the win and beats Matt Cardona. What? Then we have the Burke Invitational. with the winner being Max the Impaler. We have the national championship on the line, Scion versus Jax Dane, and new Scion beats Jax Dane to become the new NWA National Champion, even after getting it nearly handed to him by the hands of a returning Crimson, Anthony Mayweather. Scion did it on his own. He did not want to be handed the win by Anthony Mayweather's Crimson. Next, Bully Ray puts Mike Knox through a table. There's not much to talk about there. He did promise that he would put Mike Knox through a table. Bully Ray has always kept his promises, no matter what, about putting people through a table. He did it with Dixie Carter, and he did it again with Mike Knox. And then we were guaranteed new NWA Tag Team Champions, and sure enough, ladies and gentlemen, two-time NWA Tag Team Champions La Rebellion beat Hawks Aerie. And then in the main event of night one, Taya Valkyrie versus Camille. Will Taya become the belt collector? Will she win the NWA Women's title? And not today. Camille beats Taya Valkyrie on night one to retain the women's title. And then to start the night two pre-show, we have Doug Williams versus Rhett Titus in a submission match that actually ended in a time limit draw. The match had 10 minutes, and the entire 10 minutes went by with no winner. So then we go on. Angelina Love beats Taryn Terrell. Kerry Morton beats Gustavo. And then in I believe this was the main event of the night two pre-show. We had a match that is an interesting concept. So it's called the Queen Bee match, and basically how it starts is there's 3 women on each side. It starts as a 6-woman tag team match, and then the winners of the tag team match then face each other in a triple threat match, elimination style, and then the winner of the elimination style triple threat becomes the Queen Bee. So who won that match and is the inaugural Queen Bee of the NWA? But the badass with a great ass, Natalia Markova. And then we start off night 2 with a 2 out of 3 falls match. It was a very great 2 out of 3 falls match, by the way. Colby Corino beat Caprice Coleman. And then we were guaranteed new champions on night 2 as well. The return of the NWA United States Tag Team titles. A 12-team battle royal, which was won by none other than the Fixers. Fixers rule! Then we get on to Magic Jake Dumas versus Mercurio. Magic Jake Dumas beats Mercurio. Then we get an interpromotional contest for the MLW Openweight Championship. Davey Richards versus Thrillbilly Silas, and as was to be expected, Davey Richards beats Thrillbilly Silas to retain the MLW Openweight title. Night 1, you saw his return. Night 2, he's challenging. Scion beats Anthony Mayweather to retain the NWA National Championship. Night 2, we had a very, very intense, what was it? I believe, it was a street fight, I know that. But it was Pretty Empowered and the Hex. They used all kinds of weapons, and it was rough, to say the least. But Pretty Empowered beat the Hex to retain, but also they beat them down further after the match. So we were questioning whether Kenzie Page had it in her to fully embrace the dark side, fully embrace what Ella Envy has been like teaching her essentially, and now we have that answer. Now we see the evil side of Kenzie Page. Ella Envy talking Kenzie Page into essentially turning evil, like you know. So yes, I mentioned it earlier. Homicide versus Ricky Morton for the NWA Junior Heavyweight title. Homicide beats Ricky Morton. Then we have Nick Aldis and Flip Gordon. Nick Aldis beats Flip Gordon, but after the match, Odinson beats down Flip Gordon. Nick Aldis tries to make the save, but Odinson beats down Aldis as well. What the hell does this mean? I believe they mentioned it further on Power for that week, but I really wasn't paying too much attention. And even then, I don't have notes for that episode of Power. I will be back with regular NWA Power notes next week. So, but then, so yes, night one pre-show saw Kratos returning, and then on the main show they had mentioned that Kratos needs to find a tag team partner as he will go up against Rodney Mack and Aaron Stevens. Well, Kratos found his partner in the Pope, and Pope and Kratos beat Rodney Mack and Aaron Stevens in a Missouri Tornado tag team match, which, by the way, that was Falls Count Anywhere. And they went up to the stage and were actually fighting in the projections, which was very interesting. But yes, so Pope and Kratos. And then we were going to have a match between EC3 and Tom Latimer, but that match gets thrown out after CYN, Control Your Narrative, invades the NWA. Control Your Narrative is taken over, man. They've taken over WWE with the return of Braun Strowman and Karrion Kross. Now they're taking over the NWA. Like, what the hell even is Control Your Narrative? But the co-main event for NWA 74 was Camille versus Maxie Impaler, the winner of the Burke Invitational for the NWA Women's title. Camille, shockingly enough, overcomes the odds and beats Maxie Impaler to retain. And then in the main event, was it going to be two-belt Tyrus? Were we going to get the unification of the television and world heavyweight titles? No. Tyrus did not get the job done against Trevor Murdoch for the world heavyweight title. Trevor Murdoch is still your NWA World Heavyweight Champion. That is it for NWA 74. That is it for this episode. Make sure to follow us on social media at Tinkle Sports.
Yes.
Also, check out all of our videos at Tinkle Sports and Entertainment.
Yep.
We are No Final Bell.
Every Wednesday at 5.
Every Wednesday at 5.
Out of Turn 4 is every Tuesday
at 5. Also, check out Sunday Morning Tinkle
at 9. Every Sunday at 9 a.m. As always, everyone, thank you for watching this video, and we will see you in the next one. Goodbye, everyone.